In this video, we'll prepare a full cash and GPP lineup for week 5 on the main slate for FanDuel, and it's coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lay.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants. Eric, we're getting really close to 10,000 subscribers. Folks, it would really help us out if you just click that red subscribe button, get us to that 10,000 mark. We'd really, really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you those who have already subscribed. And for both of those groups, let's get into it, Michael. Week 5 now. Boy, the season is going fast. Let's get to it.
All right, Eric, here we are, week 5. And like we usually do, let's start with running backs. Who's on your mind based on this week's pricing?
Well, Michael, there are a couple of guys who I'm pretty excited about from a value perspective that is very specific to FanDuel. It is 2 backs who are traditionally bell cows. We know their role on their teams. They're home, they're favored, and they're reasonably priced. I am talking about Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette. Dalvin Cook is only $7,300, and Leonard Fournette is $7,800. So let's first talk about Cook. Man, what a matchup he has. He faces the Chicago Bears at home. They are dead last against the run, Michael. I know that Alexander Mattison gets carries in, but the bottom line is look at the touches that Cook gets, especially when they play from ahead, which you would think as 7-point favorites against a very anemic Chicago Bears offense, that will be the case. And a good implied total of 25.5.
Yeah, a little bit of fear here that he hurt his shoulder the week before last, but we saw that wasn't an issue. He got the bulk of the carries this last week, out-carried Madison quite significantly. Madison swooped in and stole a TD carry from him. You know what it is? It's about time that Minnesota plays from ahead, and it's about time that they put Cook in the end zone. You know he's going to be demanding it. He's going to get those touches. Jefferson's not going to get the 3-yard run. It's going to go to Cook. I think it's a great pick. It's 7,300. I'm surprised he's this cheap.
All right, so let's go to Leonard Fournette. Man, Michael, he gets a dream matchup as a home favorite against a poor Atlanta Falcons defense. They are monster 8.5-point favorites and a 28 implied total. So you might go, hey, Eric, Leonard Fournette, no, look at last week. He got 3 yards less than I did, Michael. But here's the thing. They got way behind. And in fact, they've gotten behind in a few games as of late, partially because they haven't had a receiving core and they haven't been able to sustain drives and they've fallen way behind. Well, Mike Evans is back. Chris Godwin is back. So I really think that Tampa Bay is really going to expose this Atlanta Falcons defense, and they will get well ahead. And finally, I think they'll rely on the running game of Leonard Fournette, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay, what a tough starting year schedule they've had, drawing, not only good teams, but teams that have pretty solid defenses, especially against the run. Fournette is going to be, I think, the bell cow this week. I think nothing for sure. He's a little more expensive than even Dalvin Cook for a reason. I think that this is a clear time to give the ball to Fournette.
All right. So 2 solid backs with great history to their team, home, favored, good game script, bad defenses. Where are you going to – can you top that, Michael? What are you going to do at wide receiver?
Well, let's start with one of the later games. Go scroll down a little bit. To the Niner game. Debo Samuel, if you watched the Monday night game, was just so impressive. His ability to break tackles, his ability to, make plays. He's just such a super talent. He continues to be involved in the run game as well. And a nice matchup here against, I think it's the Carolina Panthers. I got that right?
Yes, it is. And so, I think
a nice matchup. Obviously both involved in the run game and the pass game. How impressive was he on Monday night? Did you get a chance to see some of those highlights?
Yeah, he's just a true talent. That is why the Niners are trying to get the ball in his hands as much as possible. I think he is one of those players that actually benefits with Garoppolo now as the quarterback for the rest of the year. This is an insult to him. $7,300. I can you explain to me why? It's not like the Panthers have a great defense. I don't understand this price.
Well, they didn't have the benefit of what happened on Monday night, so they didn't see how special he was again. I can't explain it either. He just kind of, I guess he just didn't have the huge start in games 1, 2, and 3, but we saw what he did this last week. Obviously, Debo Samuel has as much upside as pretty much anyone, but you know who he doesn't have as much upside as? Cooper Kupp. So that's the other guy I want to go with. You made it possible. I guess I contributed a little bit with Debo with some of this lower pricing. The most expensive guy on here, at least the wide receiver position, I think maybe even the most expensive guy on FanDuel. And it's because of what he does week in and week out, even when they get trounced. And they got beat the heck out by the Niners. Matt Stafford had no time. But guess what he did? He still got the ball to Cooper Kupp 14 times on 19 targets for 122 yards. McVay finds ways to get this guy open. Stafford's comfortable with him. Look what he does every week. He's more valuable in PPR, full PPR leagues, but even in this half PPR, he's scoring more than anyone else in fantasy, and I think he'll do that again this week against a lackluster defense. What do you think?
You guys may be saying out there, you guys always pick Cooper Kupp. When are you going to stop? And I say, when he stops producing. I mean, we want a high floor, and he consistently gives us a high floor. And relative to DraftKings, I do know DraftKings has a full PPR, and he's more valuable. But he was actually cheaper on FanDuel. DraftKings, he was 9,600. He's only 9,500 here. I don't. If you're watching this video, you know how good Cooper Kupp is. So I'm not going to waste your time with any more. We're lining up the studs in this lineup, Michael. The number 3 wide receiver you would think would have to be a big drop off, but I'll tell you something. How about a guy who is the clear number 1 receiver on his team in a game that I expect to be high scoring? And it's not just me, the lines makers do as well. We can go all the way down to this price is ridiculous for this guy. Look, I'm still scrolling at 6,200. Drake London, the rookie. Clearly, he is somebody that Mariota likes. Last week, they just didn't do anything. Nobody. But I think Tampa Bay, which surprisingly has had its problems defensively this year, especially in the air. This is something I expect that they could put points up. And if they do, it's got to be Drake London, right? I mean, Patterson is out. Their star, I call him the Swiss Army knife because he kind of does everything. He's out. Kyle Pitts has been on and off, mostly off this year. I think London is going to have to be relied on in a game. I expect the Falcons to have to come from behind.
Yeah, a little bit of a down week for him this last week. Probably part of the reason his pricing came down a little bit. I think they're going to have to throw the ball, and they will be doing it against, like you say, a team that's better against the run than the pass. They just really don't have anyone else, and he is a special talent. So I like this pick at $6,200.
Yeah, I just keep giving him the targets. He'll be just fine. All right, let's see. Why don't we go at tight end? The premier tight ends are not on the slate. Hawkinson had one unbelievable game, and all of a sudden now he's the most expensive tight end.
Yeah, and if we could afford him, I think he does have a nice situation if Amon St. Brown does not play, which isn't 100%. I think Kittle still hasn't shown that the Niners are using him effectively. So let's go down a little bit to Zach Ertz. against Philadelphia, who has been good generally against the pass, but not necessarily against tight ends. And if you watch this last game, you saw how important Zach Ertz is to Kyler Murray. He's getting his targets. We've talked about it a lot on this show, how much he's been, because of when teams put out the dollars for somebody like Zach Ertz, got the truck backed up for him, they need to utilize him to justify themselves to their fan base. And I think that's going to continue to happen here. So $5,900 seems like a pretty nice target price tag for Zach Ertz.
They didn't get him the block, folks. He's always running routes. And I think he's going to be a big part of this offense the entire year. However, he is an obvious big part of this offense until DeAndre Hopkins comes back. So love this. And they still, $5,900 is not enough. Look how many tight ends are ahead of him. So let's get Zach Ertz in our lineup. And I'm glad we get a little bit of exposure to this Philadelphia-Arizona game, which I expect will be a shootout. All right. Admittedly, we have spent a significant amount of money in this lineup. So for those that were hoping that we would pick Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, I am not going to do that. No problem if you want to. They're both super talented and dual purpose quarterbacks with throwing and running. But I am going to give you a guy who I personally, Michael, if you take fantasy out and just as a quality quarterback, I think this guy is talented. He was actually someone I was really hoping the Seahawks would pick up in the offseason. And I was surprised that he didn't get a starting job. But since Tua is injured, it opens up a starting position for Teddy Bridgewater. And let's see how far we get to go down before we get to Teddy Bridgewater. All right. I just think he is an accurate quarterback. He may not have the strongest arm in the league, but he is an accurate quarterback. He can be mobile in the pocket, create more time. And boy, you got to love his weapons. with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, he is going to get plenty of yards after the catch. And oh, by the way, he faces the New York Jets.
Yeah, I mean, arguably the Miami Dolphins have the most talent at the wide receiver position. And so anyone who's at the helm there, it's amazing how inexpensive he is. And Eric, let's be honest, him at quarterback is what made the rest of this lineup possible. The fact that we could get him at such a bargain in the quarterback position, going up against the New York Jets, seemed to be a really good decision so we could keep some of these more expensive guys in other spots.
It's just really hard to believe. I mean, he is a favorite, the 3.5-point favorites, 24 implied total. It's really hard to believe that he would be a complete flop. Miami is going to put points up, and you figure it's got it with all of their receiving weapons. It's going to come at least partially in the air. All right, we have $9,600 left. Michael, what about flex? You don't have a ton of money to spend here.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm going to say next. We always love to pay down on defense so we can get the best flex possible. So if you scroll down into the 6,000 range, around 6,500, right in the middle there, you'll see that there's a guy who's the bell cow for his team because of injury, who looked really good on Monday night. We put him in the flex spot because of the Monday night situation. And that is Jeff Wilson Jr. Do you see him there?
Yeah, I have to really scroll down to get to him at $6,500.
There you go. So again, against Carolina, who has been kind of weak against the run. Look what he's done kind of consistently after Elijah Mitchell went down, putting up pretty good numbers for a $6,500 price tag, and now he's kind of drawing the weakest rush defense that he's faced yet. And I just think the Niners, if they get ahead, they're going to rely on the run. That is Kyle Shanahan's MO. And Jeff Wilson will be the biggest rewarded individual from that.
And to bring our little NFL Survivor kind of component to this, I personally like the Niners to win this game, Michael. I think that they'll be ahead. I think they're the better team, even though they're in Carolina. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I like the drop of the Survivor comment. This would be one of the ones I'd really be looking at this week as a possible team with not a lot of future value. And they looked really good against the Rams. Only concern is the fact is they're coming off a Monday night game. And so they have a shorter week.
Yeah, we're not able to do an NFL Survivor this week. So if you stayed this long, you got a little snippet. Niners wouldn't have been my pick. But all right. That leaves us with $3,100. So let's play the dating game. What defenses, what suitors will come visit us with only $3,100 in our pocket? It's the Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks. Which bird would we like to go with? Well, I'm going to put it this way. I'm not going with Atlanta. I'm not going against Tom Brady and all those weapons on that are healthy on the Tampa Bay Bucks. Look, this may not sound good because I week after week tell you how bad the Seattle defense is. And let me first say this is a punt play, but I like their matchup. The New Orleans Saints has been a gold mine so far this year to go up against for a defense. They're dead last. And the Seahawks as a defense, fantasy-wise, not real-world-wise, has not been bad. They've gotten at least 7 every particular game. They either are going to have Winston, who's a little bit prone to a turnover here and there, or backup Andy Dalton. Also, it's not clear whether Michael Thomas will play in this game. So all in all, Michael, I can live with the Seattle defense. Michael's going to head out, but before he does, we're going to walk through his favorite stack, and I'll finish out the lineup.
Let's attack one of those highest scoring potential games, that Eagles Atlanta game. Both teams have been scoring all right and haven't necessarily shut down the other team. So it's got the highest 49.5 over under. So
you got me on my all anticipation here. Are you going to go with Ertz or Murray on that? Which guy do you trust more?
Yeah, well, Ertz is leading the league in rushing touchdowns. Murray has, I think, been a little more timid with the run right now, but Ertz hasn't. And it's worked well for them because they're 4-0, the only undefeated team in the NFL. Why change what's working? And his number one guy has been A.J. Brown. So I say it's Ertz to Brown. And you can run it back with Marquise Brown, who I think has the most upside of the wide receivers and pass catchers for Arizona. What do you think?
Well, basically, I guess you're wondering what can Brown do for you? And hopefully a lot in this particular stack. I really like that both Browns are kind of the home run hitters. When they go off, they really do go off. So I think it's certainly not a cheap stack, but it's definitely a stack that has a really high ceiling. So I like it. I think it's very good timing for you to run away, because now I got to scratch my head and figure out how I'm going to make the rest of this salary work. But thanks for joining us, Michael. I do know on a personal level that your schedule was crazy this week and my schedule was crazy this week. Thanks so much for making all type of accommodations so we could deliver both a DraftKings and a FanDuel lineup this week.
Sure thing. You have a good one. Thanks, everyone.
All right, everybody. This is the completed GBP lineup. I added to his Philadelphia, Arizona stack of the 2 Browns with Zach Ertz, along with Marquise Brown going the other way, and what I hope will be a shootout going both ways. I wanted to make sure that I included another stack, and the game I feel pretty darn good about that Minnesota should dominate. And again, be someone you should consider in your NFL Survivor as a 7-point favorite at home against the anemic Chicago Bear offense. I'm telling the story that Minnesota is going to get way up, rely on Dalvin Cook, And the Minnesota defense is going to be able to feast against the NFL's worst offense on the pass and the second worst overall, and a Minnesota defense that can put pressure on the quarterback. All right. And from there, I wanted to add a couple of players who were really low cost because I needed to go low cost because we had an expensive stack, but we felt like they had a high ceiling. So I wouldn't necessarily want Devin Singletary in cash, but I think he's a great GPP play. He's in a fantastic matchup as a home favorite in how 14 points, a massive 30.5 implied total. Look, we know that he shares carries with his own quarterback. He gets the most of the running back carries, but Josh Allen often takes the ball and runs with it, and which is why you don't see the massive carry total. But if they can score a lot of points and get up, hopefully Devin Singletary finds the end zone either through the air or on the ground. Can you believe it? Last 2 games combined, 16 targets. Cannot be upset with that. And then finally, we already talked about Drake London. I just want to talk about Curtis Samuel. He is someone who is also in a great matchup facing the Tennessee Titans and who don't do a good job against the pass. He's been regularly featured. He's not the number one. That should go to Terry McLaurin, but he's a good 1B for Carson Wentz. So continues to get a lot of targets in a great matchup. Pretty good ceiling for a paltry $5,800 price. That's our GPP lineup. Thank you guys so much for joining us. When it is available, we'll put on the screen the DraftKings Week 5 lineup and also another video we think you'll enjoy. Until next time, take care, everybody.